A little bit of PC stuff, which I actually don't include in my overall collection. We'll have a good debate about that later, why I don't consider PC games to be really part of game collecting. I do have quite a few there, but don't even really consider them part of my collection. And starting over here, we have my favorite system of all time, the Super Nintendo. Bought it the day it came out, back in Christmas of '91. I was working at a bingo hall at the time, just sucking up to old ladies like crazy to make enough tips to buy this system and all these games. And a lot of these are from when the system was first out. Like, I bought them and kept them ever since. Point out a few of the really good ones here, like Breath of Fire, Alien 3. I'm probably the only person you'll ever meet who actually loves Bubsy.
Bubsy! I
love this game. I know people hate it. I actually love it. Castlevania X. Another rare one. No collection would be complete without the Final Fantasies. Let's go back there. And Legend of Zelda, Lufia 1 and 2. I could pull out Super Nintendo games all day, and there's so many good ones here. You can see more down there.
Phalanx.
Ah, yes, the game with the best cover here.
There it is.
Oh yeah, right there. There we go. I'm sure people have seen many videos about horrible video game covers. There's one that caught everyone's eye, and still does.
You know what? For all the crappy covers we've been forced to deal with for many years, that isn't bad.
One of my favorite games of all time.
Oh yeah.
Super Metroid.
Metroido.
So that is the Super Nintendo. A lot of games for Super Nintendo. And like I said before, most bought when the system was first out. Very few of these I've had to buy afterwards. Just love that system to death.
And over here you can see there's even more in Big Mike's Never-Ending Hall of Shame. Let's do a quick little look up here.
Statue, more Shining Force, Shining Wind, Odin Sphere figures, and Resident Evil, the Sheva BSAA uniform. And from Code Veronica from the Dreamcast, these came out years ago. And this is the final wall of the walk-in closet of the game room. I have my my Odin Sphere art, which I bought at an anime convention, and a couple of Resident Evil figures from Japan. This is I'll talk about this one 2 seconds here. A bit of a rare statue, the Rebecca Chambers one. This one I got off eBay from some woman who was selling all of her ex-husband's material goods and probably had no idea how much this was worth, so I got it dirt cheap. Down here is all my video game manga, mostly Street Fighter, Shining Tears, Suikoden, Phantasy Star. Then, down here a little bit further, another Shining Wind statue, my little Pac-Man Christmas ornament. And... there we go.
Alright, what else you got?
And down here, not hooked up unfortunately yet, is my Atari 7800. I will hook that back up one day, just not a lot of room for it right now. And oh, these are kind of cool. I'll show off these real quick. Huge fan of Dreamcast, all the original Dreamcast discs that came with the magazine 10 years ago. And my Phantasy Star postcard. Alright, now we have my Genesis collection. Genesis unfortunately is the only system I basically haven't bought the day it came out. I bought it 2 years after, so I feel great shame over that. But I made up for it by buying tons of games for it. I really enjoyed it. One of the hardest games ever made right there, Contra, and one of the best Castlevanias ever made. So Genesis did us good. Jurassic Park, a few others.
Big Mike likes to touch.
Yeah. And over here we have the most important Genesis games, the Phantasy Stars. Have to have those in the collection. And Shadowrun, not as good as the Super Nintendo version, but still worth having. And the beginning, I go on all this video about the Shining Force series. There's where it started. We got the Sonics, Streets of Rage, Toe Jam and Earl. You know, I've got to cover all the classics when it comes to Genesis. And Vectormans. My Vectormans actually are still sealed. So I have them on multiple collections, so it's not like I've never played them. And some Mega Drive games here. And this is kind of unique, I'm sure people have seen this before. For some odd reason, the Batman on Mega Drive came in this little tiny case for no apparent reason, and the American one is about to come down into frame. Interesting thing about the American one, on the back, it's pictures of the NES version, if anyone's ever seen that before.
Oh shit. Awesome. I remember I picked up a copy of that Japanese one that Mike's holding, and I picked it up at a microplay, and the guy told me that it was never coming out to North America, so I went and bought the Mega Drive version. Asshole.
Only if we knew then, we would know now.
Mm-hmm.
Master System, got a few classics there. Batman Returns, and need we never forget Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. Master System version, actually almost as good as the Genesis version. Excellent. And the Wonder Boys as well.
And some random statue.
Some random statue from Samurai Showdown, and a SNK promotional disc at E3 2005. I got this at actually I went to SNK's booth.
Awesome.
Yeah, good old E3, back when I used to have to work at the E3s. Then up here, I'll let Terrence take over and talk about one of our favorite series of all time.
Big Mike will of course tell his story about Phantasy Star when we get to our retrospective on it. But Phantasy Star for me was my first role-playing game on Sega Master System, and my mother took me down to Florida in March '88. And one day I got really sunburnt at the Wet and Wild, so a day or two later we actually went and scoured, you know, whatever area of Florida we were, looking to buy this game. And in 1988, with a weak Canadian dollar, this was, I believe, 90 bucks plus tax. And I had the whole grid paper and all that business, I had no idea, and I searched like every square inch, but whatever. Phantasy Star is an awesome game, and even though it's taken on a different life with Phantasy Star Online and whatnot, the core original Phantasy Stars, one on the Master System and then 2, 3, 4 on Genesis were fantastic. So this was a rumor for a long time, and we're so lucky that we were able to get one of these because it's so rare. What this essentially is a direct port of the Master System, or since this is Japanese, the Mark III version of Phantasy Star, and they actually put it into a Mega Drive cartridge. Extremely rare, and it's one of those just fun things to have. And this is an absolute classic, and compared to the Final Fantasies of the day, they couldn't compare. This was so much better. Combine a lot of mythological creatures and, you know, multiple planets and all that business, but like I said, we'll get to that when it's time to get to it proper. Good fucking game. And, you know, put it back up, and we bow accordingly and get ready to sacrifice a virgin to them.
And here's the last part of the walk-in closet of the game room. First, I'll start with this nice Darkstalkers art, which I bought at an anime convention in Toronto. The artist who drew this and this actual picture went on later to be published in Udon's Darkstalker tribute book. And down here we have another Shining Wind figure. My Phantasy Star 11 for the PlayStation 2 came with the giant hard drive.
And when he says Phantasy Star, he means Final Fantasy.
Final Fantasy, yeah. See, we were just talking about Phantasy Star. See, Phantasy Star is always on the brain. Then we have probably my least favorite system, but you know, still had to collect it, was the 32X. I'm a firm believer of every system's got at least one good game worth owning, and thankfully the 32X had about 3 or so, and there's, you know, Knuckles Chaotix. Then we have some Game Gear. Not a lot of Game Gear games, but just a few down there, a few important ones. Got Jurassic Park and Sonic, of course.
And Aladdin.
And, oh, Aladdin.
And
I forgot I had that, actually.
Virtua Fighter Animation.
Oh yeah, still sealed. This is courtesy of a friend at work who I used to buy games off of back in the flea market days. He actually had some of these in his basement, so he gave me one as a gift.
And you have a God game too.
That's right. I know the Nintendo nerds done the Learning Tree games, but there is the Genesis Exodus game. I obviously just own this for a complete joke. Like, I'm more a firm believer of games. Sometimes games are so bad you just gotta own them, and that definitely fits in that category. Then we have the original Game Boy. I used to have a lot more games than this. I unfortunately, in a moment of weakness back in the early 90s, sold a whole bunch. But in my defense, I was selling them in order to buy a Sega CD. So I guess it's not all that bad. And I rebought a bunch. I got the Final Fantasies, Donkey Kong. And for you collectors out there, I know someone will go a little crazy when they see this. It's Castlevania Legends, the rarest Castlevania game out there. Complete mint boxed, the whole deal. The first female vampire hunter on that one. And there's another one that get the collectors a little crazy. I know I'm gonna get corrected here. Resident Evil Gaiden.
Gaiden.
There you go.
Jesus. Don't worry, guys. I know I'm in the wrong, but we're gonna cover that sometime soon.
And down a little bit further, we have my Virtual Boy games. I had to buy a couple import games here. I don't believe Virtual Tetris was ever released in North America. Could be wrong on that. My Game Gear, still alive. And even though I don't have an N-Gage, just a couple N-Gage games to round out the pile.